Right guys, we are going to have a look at the battlefield of Prestonpans today. We're in 1080p, not 4K, so we don't lose parts of the video. I'm with my colleague Karl as ever. We're going to get a wee history lesson. Bits and bobs, we're going to see what we can do. But we just had a bit of a problem just trying to get here because it's not the easiest place to find if you're not a local.
No, it's not
handy tip, head to the bowling club in Prestonpans and you can get on the trail. And you can probably see a bit of the damage from some of these high winds we've had recently.
Yeah. Maybe we've got time as well. Kenzie House, squeeze that in.
Yeah.
If we've got time.
We can do that, yeah. That's easy enough to get to from here. And plus easy to park and, you know. Where we did a ghost hunt with...
Yeah, I was never at that one. That's one I couldn't make. That's when you got introduced to the team, wasn't it, at that one? That was one of your first ones you did, I believe.
No, that was one I did as a side with Guy and Andrea.
All right.
Now, that was quite an interesting place. Beautiful inside,
yeah.
Beautiful grounds. There's a lot of places to walk around there. And also lovely paintings. And also had a bit of activity and a giant library where there was no books, because all the books with the deal with the house are all in the National Library of Scotland. So guys, we're just going to walk up this hill towards the viewpoint of the battle. Yes, in that library we sat in the dark and yeah, loud bangs, put it that way. You could feel you were in somebody else's space. There was a bedroom not far off of that.
That house actually dates back from Battle of Pinkie Cleugh, about the 1680s.
Oh yeah.
1680s, I think. Had that house, I think.
Now before we came here, when I had a look, I saw a picture which I posted to Karl, which I think's shown at the top of this viewpoint. It's actually quite a good picture. It really kind of represents what this area looks like. I'm gonna wait until I get you to the top before I pan you around and give you the views. Excuse the heavy breathing. They're all pal size. Not that bit. Here we go. Right. So you can get into here and have a wee look. Well, I think it's all numbered.
Yeah.
So I'll start. Give you a wee read. You can pause the video and see what's what. We'll look at this one.
Oh, sorry.
Well, there's that picture that I was talking about.
See, the way I look at it is that back in the day, there were 3 roads leading into Prestonpans.
Yeah.
You've got the coast road, you've got the low road, then you've got the high road, which is, I'm assuming, where them houses were.
Is that the one that you'll be in Scotland before the...
So,
Right. Interesting actually, because I'm standing here. I'm just about going through the views, but I was just like, where are we? Like, okay, so there's the sports centre. There's the coast. Now in the pictures that I've seen, they look like they're coming down this hill. They're heading that way. I mean, I don't know whether this looks like a man-made hill to me.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Just as a viewpoint, and certainly everything else is flat.
Just see back to the house from
Yeah. Go and tell us a bit about that. What was it?
Well, that was that's where Colonel Gardner, who was the highest ranking officer killed at Prestonpans, that's where he stayed. So when you look at it, really, it's a stone's throw away from the battlefield.
Way in the distance.
And his wife was in the house while he was fighting a battle.
Did he live?
Yeah, that's where he lived.
I know. Where did he live?
No, he got killed. He was the highest ranking officer killed at the, during the Jacobite rebellion. So, battle in brief, you've got the low ground, which is here. Now, John Cope, Sir John Cope, Lieutenant General Sir John Cope, had his troops facing with his back towards the sea. Yeah, facing that direction, knowing that the Jacobites were coming from Edinburgh, and there's only 3 roads that they could take. Now, it's not going to be the coast road because he's got soldiers in Prestonpans. It's not going to be the middle road because he had soldiers there guarding that. If anything, it was the high ground, which is where the houses were.
Right at the back. There's more. That's Trinent.
Plus he had soldiers and spies waiting for the Jacobites to come. So he's facing this way. So his army is facing this way with the back, so he couldn't get outflanked. The Jacobites come from the top there, and they're on the high ground.
Yeah, they were facing in these. Correct, in this picture here, you can see them in here. They're facing that direction. Not that this is, going to be completely accurate.
That is the high ground there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's up there.
And as the Jacobites came in, Cope had his facing the southwards, facing forwards, and as they marched across there, still facing this way, and what the Bonnie Prince wanted to do, this is the 20th of September 1745, he wanted to attack. Now this was one of the first of many arguments he had with his, I'd say second in command, but to a certain extent, George Murray. He wanted to attack, but if you look there, that was all marsh ground, so there's no way the Jacobites could actually come through that.
Yeah, that's treacherous.
It would have been a sicking target. So what he did, as they marched, the odd volley fire to and from, but nothing serious. By that time, night was getting in, and the Jacobites slowly moved across, and in the early hours of the 21st, a guy called John Anderton, now whether he was a Jacobite sympathiser or people believe he was a local guy, a drover, a sheep herder, he knew there was a way through the marshland, a little pathway through the marshland that could end up on the other side and miss out all the marshland, which they did. And the Jacobites filtered out through there, which meant that Cope is facing this way and his spies are telling him the Jacobites over there, so he turned his army so he's facing this way. And what he did, he posted pickets out forward about 100 yards in the front there to find out where the Jacobites were, plus the fact he had spies. So by this time he was facing that way towards there. What the Jacobites did then, the actual pathway was manoeuvred all the way round, so they were coming from where the pylons are in a sense. Yeah, and this was the early hours. Now what the Jacobite, if you ever seen the film Outlander, you ever seen it?
Yes, I
now
have.
That is one of the best true adaptations of what the Jacobites did when it came to the charge, the Highland charge, because the fashion at the time for the Jacobites, or even all sorts of people at the time, was white shirts. So what the Jacobites did, because it was dark, they put cloaks over the white shirts so they couldn't be seen. So by that time, the 21st of September, the early hours, the Jacobites took off the sheets and arranged themselves there, ready to charge. Now, the pickets saw movement. A picket or a soldier ran back, told he was facing this way, told John Cope that the Jacobites are there. So he managed to turn his forces this way to face them. Yeah. And by the time he turned his forces, the Jacobite charge came. Full on. Now, they were taken by surprise because the pickets that were set, that were positioned further out there, were killed instantly. But the Jacobites heard the cry, the redcoats heard the cry, so they were ready for it. All they could do is give one volley fire, and then they ran. You've got to remember that these redcoats were new recruits. They'd never seen action.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I think a majority of them, were actually up north, actually here to engineer roads, to build the roads. So they weren't soldiers, they weren't out and out soldiers. So they give fire, the Jacobites ran towards them, and of course it was just a melee. The Jacobites just laid into them. Now, one of the stories was, as the Jacobites running, you had in the central, you had the MacGregor clan, and you had the Perth Islanders. Now, the story goes that Malcolm MacGregor was associated with the clan MacGregor. When the redcoats gave fire, the only first volley fire, Malcolm MacGregor was shot in the legs, and he was shot several times, and he went down flat on his face. Now the MacGregor clan halted because the clan chief was down, and as he halted, they saw movement. So two of the guys got him from each arm, pulled him up, and he said, "I am alive. I am ready to go. Do your duty for our clan." And of course, they all ran for it, and it was an absolute melee. Another report is that Captain Blake from the Redcoats, he was there. He gave out the first volley fire, and he saw that the soldiers a little bit nervous, a little bit excited, and they started to run, drop the guns and run. But he tried to get them together to do another volley fire. He said, "One more volley, guard lads, one more volley, and we'll have them." But as he turned to face the melee, a claymore sliced his head in two, and he was gone.
Oh, jeez.
And it spread all the rest of them. Now, John Cope had you can see here, they had cannons that they brought from the ship that they got from Dunbar to here. Now, there was about 4 or 5 cannons, I think it was two maybe 3 pound cannons, and they were all manned by, should we say, part-time seamen who, as soon as they saw the Jacobite charge, they ran. So it got to the stage where Colonel Whiteman, who was in charge of the artillery, or what he called artillery, had to fire them himself. So it's a matter of doing that, and in the end, he legged it.
He ran it.
He ran. It was an absolute melee. Everybody ran. Yeah. And I don't know, it shows you here. Set back from the front line of the Redcoats was the dragoons, the mounted dragoons, which was, you had 2 on each side. You had the left-hand side and the right-hand side. On the right-hand side, you had Colonel Gardner, and on the left-hand side, you had Colonel Hamilton. Both roughly about 2, maybe 300 dragoons on each side, that's soldiers on horses. Now, Colonel Gardner turned round to set a charge, to charge his troops on the horses, because you can't really have foot soldiers without cavalry support. That was back in the day. As he gave the order to charge, he turned round and the cavalry scarpered.
They ran
They ran away. So it was left with him and a couple of the NCOs. As he noticed at the front of the front line, he noticed a group of redcoats on foot trying to fight their way out. So what he did, he ran there he got on his horse, tried to give him a bit of support, to try and motivate him to give off another round. But what happened, he got overcome, and he was killed, partly. He was killed, stone dead. He was, like I say, he was the highest ranking officer to be killed during the Jacobite rebellion. And he lived a stone's throw away. Now the story is that where he actually lay dying, his manservant came out and saw him. He lay dying by what they call a thorn bush. And he was taken back to his house where he unfortunately died. Now that thorn bush turned into a thorn tree, and it was on this site until it was blown down during the wind in 1921. But I believe that when we go in the museum, you might see a bit of that that thorn tree in the actual museum as an exhibition. But it was an absolute slaughter. I believe there was between 500 and 1,000 prisoners taken on the Redcoat side. The Jacobites, roughly about 150 killed, 50 wounded. but the redcoats roughly between 200 and 300 killed. And I believe the dragoons who ran away rode all the way to Stirling Castle and alerted General Blakeney, who was in charge of the garrison there, to say what has happened. General Cope scarpered back that way towards Dunbar with his tail between his legs, thinking that he was there to teach the Jacobites a lesson, the rebel scum, which he called them. Obviously it backfired on him, and his troops were slaughtered. We'll go and see Kirkensey House, that's where the baggage train was, where General Cope's baggage train was captured. All bits and pieces captured there, and I believe he had a purse of about £3,000, but then it was a lot of money.
What do you think that means? So you've got the two flags away in the distance next to the main road.
And it looks like a Scottish flag, it looks like a Union flag.
Yeah, we've got two, a Scottish flag and a Union flag. Yeah. Do you think it's just because it's the road that would head that way?
I think it's something to do with the golf, I'm assuming.
Or possibly marking the path.
Maybe.
Because there are some other little signposts, so we've got...
That might actually be the path where the Jacobites...
This is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So if you come back, you'll come up this road here, come through Prestonpans, up here towards the railway station and along this main road, and there's a little slip road to the right that takes you up here. And there is a sign down there, so when you're coming out, and I was coming out of that road to come back to meet Karl, there's a sign down there, so it must be a bit of information down there as well. Yeah,
I believe it's bad really, isn't it, because James Gardner was a veteran of the wars. He's been in the army since he was 14 years old. He served abroad. He served in the Austrian succession. He was wounded. He was shot in the neck. He was slashed down the face. So he's quite a vet. And for him, this shows you there's the thorn bush there, or the thorn tree. I think that picture's actually in the museum. That's in there, and he got overcome. I mean, he was shot 4 times before he was unseated. And then he was chopped up near enough. He was actually stripped of all his clothes, so when his manservant found him, he was just left in his undergarments. Stripped of his boots, his pants, his jacket, everything.
Because it was all worth something.
Of course it was.
The men that fought in this battle, probably even the English soldiers, probably had nothing.
Well, a lot of the redcoats, preliminary, were right there. That is there. See?
That's the house in the distance.
Preliminary, it was the redcoats were mainly lowlanders. Never seen any action. And when you see a bloke of kilted, hairy-ass men coming towards you with big claymores and shouting, you're not going to stand there and one volley fire. That was it. There was away.
Didn't get much chance when he took a claymore to the face.
It's like it's the Highland charge, isn't it? I mean, the faster you get there, the more devastation you can do, because you're waiting on them to load, reload. By that time, you're on top of them, which they were. And you know how big and how heavy the claymores are, and how sharp they were. They take a man's head off with a big, which they did.
Claymore is very similar to a type of medieval German sword, and there's a certain technique that they used for fighting with these. People often think they fought in a certain way. When they see them, they're thinking the old Conan the Barbarian and things like that. But they have a very different kind of style to fighting. A claymore was very much the same idea.
You've got to think of the aftermath, the carnage, even the wounded. Chances are, if you've lost a limb, you're not going to survive.
It's got a bit of a distance, so it's a kind of distance weapon.
I mean, where can you seek help? If you've lost a hand, a leg, an arm, it's just a matter of time before you die.
It's like a lot of people disregard, that don't know very much about medieval weaponry. Things like poleaxes and stuff like that. They were lethal.
I mean, the Highland charge was that you start. What you do? You've got a musket. Now, not many of the Highlanders had muskets. I think there was one or two. There was some left over from the Spanish, the 1715, 1719 Jacobite rebellion. The rest were pretty much French made. Pretty much okay, but it wasn't as good as the redcoats, or what they call the brown vest. So of course, as you discharge your weapon, you just drop it and then charge, which they did.
One shot.
Yeah, that's all you've got. You can see here.
With your shield and your.
You can see here the
short sword, and
you can see here the actually the Camerons. They're the ones that attacked the Cameron. The McGregors were central, and they were the ones. Yeah, Malcolm McGregor in the front there. Of course, they halted for a second when they saw the clan leader go down. And of course, when he got himself up, or when the help of 2 people each side, still shot to bits, getting the clan together, and of course, then they charged. You're talking pretty much evenly matched, 2,500, 2-3. And of course, you had the McDonald's, which situated there with the McDonald's of Glencoe. So obviously, they had something to prove when they found out that 1 or 2 on the, I think there was on the Campbell's, you had the Campbell militia. So of course, they had something to prove for Glencoe.
Campbell. We got massacred.
They did. It would have been a close call, I think, if they would have stayed there, and if it was season's troops, because you've got to remember that the British Army at the time was fighting in Europe. They was fighting in the war of the Oxford Succession. So majority of the, well, if not all of the regular soldiers were in France.
I'm saying I don't have the Campbell name, but I do in the family. But then again, who we were going to visit today? Who's called Campbell?
The dragoons there.
That lives in Trinent. Andrea, you redcoat.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, and you've got people like you or me, manning the guns, part-time seamen. And people who've just got off the street. Do you know how to fire a cannon? Yeah, of course we do. Edinburgh. Yeah, of course we do. Yeah. There you go. And as soon as you see someone running towards you, sod this, I'm not doing that, I'm away.
Well, we need a number of men just to turn it.
Yeah. And you got to the stage where the NCOs were firing the cannons, and none of them knew how to reload, so it was just a 1 shot a piece. And that's it. Cannons are finished.
It was like when I went and did airsoft, you're going to fire your cannon and run into the direction it's firing. Simon had an awful habit of throwing grenades that bounce back.
Gives you an adaptation there of the guys running, the guys with the cannon.
Look at him with his hands out.
And the rest of them running as well.
His face going, I'm out of here, mate.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you give off 1 volley, and that was it.
Ka-ching. I mean, it's not exactly easy to sort of load these things depending on the weather, eh?
Well, it was at the moment in time that you're talking, the early morning, the morning mist and fog. They came out of the fog. Just think of how far
the sun rose, dispelled the mist, and showed the armies to one another home.
It was a slaughter, right? And yet years later, after the Jacobite rebellion had finished, when John Cope was in for a court-martial to find out what actually happened, he was exonerated. He blamed the regular soldier.
Oh yeah.
Well, saying that though, he was never given a position of.
They were ill-prepared.
Yes.
They were facing the wrong direction.
I think in a sense, when you're talking about John Cope, he's very much a military man, and very much of the thought that the Jacobites, rebels, they can't put an army together. What can they do? This is the British Army. We are the British Army. They can't beat anybody. We are, you know what I mean? We're the conquerors of Europe. And then, of course, when this happened, he was sent packing. I mean, he even left his baggage train to get looted.
Look at
That's how quick he got.
We were organised by somebody that was considered a drunk.
I mean, they had special sort of routine where if you're facing a Highlander, you don't face him head on. You face them on to the left. And of course, everybody does that. Because if you're a Highlander, you've got your Taj, you've got your Claymore, and you're running at somebody there, it's that part there, you're more open, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what they aim for, under your armpit.
It makes us sound really simple, doesn't it, as human beings? Yeah. Like we maybe are not as complicated as you think we are.
And you're talking Culloden as well, and I mean the place itself, the actual location, the actual, the moor was, for the Highland charge, it was never going to happen.
But they knew it was a bad thing.
It is, but it got to the stage.
They wouldn't listen.
It got to the stage where the Bonnie Prince, George Murray was a seasoned campaigner, and it got to the stage where the Prince wasn't talking to George Murray because of the setback from the return from Derby from England, in it all, because I think because George Murray wanted to, let's go to the hills, let's do a guerrilla campaign, and get the Hanoverian government sue for peace. So at least we'll have Scotland.
Yeah.
But I think he wanted it over, done and dusted. I want to get my father on the throne. I got a specific time to do it, and he wanted to do it. And now to have two leaders in one army fall out and not speak to each other, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what he was doing, the Irish contingent, John O'Sullivan, John Drummond, chose the battle site of Culloden, which you know yourself is absolute for the Highland Charge. It's a waste of time. And they was left waiting there 4 hours before the actual battle started. None of them have slept. I mean, the frustrating thing was though that they did that venture in the middle of the night to try and into Cumberland's camp to try and get them, you know, to try and a midnight march. And of course, by the time they got
like
lost,
an open field.
by the time
like,
they got back, they were knackered, and no, it was.
It's got very little rocks to even hide behind. You know, anybody that did live probably hid behind a rock.
And they were prepared.
Yeah.
The Redcoats were prepared. I mean, the thing that destroyed the Highland Charge was the grape shot that they used from the canister. They changed from cannonball to canister, and that just obliterated the charge. And then, let's face it, it's a thing that's outdated even then, this Highland Charge.
They didn't have horses.
Yeah. And it was just one of those things. But they're saying that though, they only, you know, we're talking the Jacobites, they only lost one campaign, which was Culloden. They won this one, they won Falkirk. So what he should have done is gone back into the hills like Murray said, and just a guerrilla campaign.
They did a good job. They should have paid their bloody taxes, eh?
And of course,
Joking.
It was just a town like this was just looted after the aftermath of the battle. All the houses, you know, I mean, even Garner's house was looted. His wife left it as soon as she saw the stage Mackenzie house. They were eating apples, as well as raiding the baggage train.
Can you get into that house?
I don't know if you can or not.
You probably can, but it's probably privately. Everything's privately owned now, these folks.
It was renovated about 10 years ago for a cost of a good couple of grand. But I don't know if it's open to the public, but we can still walk there. We can still have a, because it's got a nice not driveway, and I'm presuming it's maintained. Of course, you can see that building just over there. It's like that's Preston Tower.
Yeah.
That building there that sticks out. Now that's an L-shaped tower house. Dates back from around about the 17th century. Used to be the Hamiltons, who were a big royalist family. It was actually burnt during the royal wooing back in the day, and also it was burnt in the War of the Three Kingdoms by Cromwell, because the Hamiltons were very much a royalist family. And it's actually, that's where the Redcoats ran. For some reason they ran towards the sea. I don't know why. They ran towards that way, and in the actual grounds of that castle or that tower, it was actually a killing ground for the Redcoats. They was killed mercilessly. I mean, we're on about the Jacobites being killed at Culloden. You know, it got to the stage where anybody that was wounded on the battlefield was either bayoneted or clubbed. I mean, when you go back to Prestonpans, I mean, that's what the Jacobites are doing with the Redcoats. Just mercilessly kill them. And there's an actual area there where some Redcoats are actually buried. Anyway, going back to the War of the Three Kingdoms, when it was burned, the guy called John Hamilton was in the house at the time. He would not surrender the tower or the castle or the house, whatever you want to call it. It was actually burned inside the building, and then the saying is that his ghost haunts that tower.
All right.
You can, certain times you can see him at night time. You can see him or through one of the windows.
Will we go to the tower?
You can see him actually at the tower there. Picture of
I notice it says get 1745 battlefield and 1722 wagon way at. So I wondered if that was
so we've got all these things
somewhere else or part of this, the different time.
It's just a shame though, isn't it, that the landscape's changed over the course of time. You know, it's not been protected I mean, the railway and the Victorian Railway comes right through it.
We've got a motorway,
Yeah.
you know, and yeah.
I mean, all right, was it for some sort of spectacle, having the railway through the battle site, through Banton House, all the way through to Prestonpans? But it's just a shame.
There is a church, so on the map.
Yeah, Church of Travon. That's where, when the Jacobites first came, that's where the Camerons had a little bit of a scuffle with the regulars. Hello, how are you doing? You all right? That's where the Camerons had a little bit of a firefight with the Redcoats in the churchyard.
Well, what we'll do, we'll stop it here, and we will catch up with you later. Thing, guys, is we're just walking down the hill. We're talking about Prestonpans. I was just saying, all I know is Prestonpans is Prestonpan your face in. But, you know, where large groups of children walk about at night, they're quite harmless. And where my car got damaged for the first time just parked in the street because I decided to go and see one of these pipe bands, you know, one of these religious intolerant pipe bands I heard in the distance. Well, I was like, woo, I could hear the whistles, and I was like, oh, I've never seen one of them before. So I left the car, and when I came back, somebody'd hit my bumper. But yeah, so what do you know about Prestonpans then, Karl?
Well, the actual name Prestonpans, it's because of the religious connection. It was called Preston. Because the monks that were situated here on the coast. And what they used to do, the monks, they used to pan for salt to sell and to use for foods, to preserve foods that they stored. Hence the term Prestonpans. And over the course of time, it's Prestonpans.
I thought you were going to say panning for gold. I'm like, oh, are we in gold land? You know?
I think the gold you've got around here, I think it's coal, isn't it?
Yeah. Black gold. Well, no, that's oil, isn't it?
Yeah. And there you go. That's your trivia for the day.
There you go. And we're gonna I think we're going to the museum to check that out. From there, and see where else it takes us. See if I can actually put a video together this time. Alright, bye. We've got to the train station, drove past the house, and thought let's see if we can get to it. We'll be parked in the train station, come over the bridge, over the train track, down a wee path, and we're heading towards a monument and the house. Weren't sure if we would get to it.
This is the house, the original house of Colonel James Gardner, the highest ranking officer to be killed at the Battle of Prestonpans.
And what was his, or how did he die?
He was shot several times on horse because he was a dragoon, and he was dragged off his horse. His head was sliced open with a Lockerbit axe, one of the fine weapons of the Jacobites, and hacked to death with the sword, the claymore. So in a sense, it didn't kill him though. He was actually laid there for a couple of hours before his manservant came from this house and took him, and there he died. This is his monument.
Yeah, we'll go to the monument, check that out.
Well, he died in the house in the arms of his wife, Fanny. Francis. You can just see the entrance of them trees, Matt, the entrance way. Wow. And this is where they lived, the stone throw away from the back of the side.
I did note, as I walked past there, I did see the sign. It said private path, so to get into this place. So this may be private. We might be able to just get up to here. This is as close as we can get.
There's a monument. I believe it's built around about 1850.
Yeah.
Monument to him. And you come to think of it, because he's a local celebrity, it was paid for by public donations.
Another map of the battlefield.
That's the one that was up there. See, that's where he was. He was in the Mounted Dragoons.
Pretty much anybody that was in charge tended to be on a horse, eh?
See there what I was telling you about. There's General Gardner being looked after, and there's the Jacobites being looked after in the same building. Prestonpans, which is like a church. Is it like a church building? Like the vicarage, to do with the church.
Nice.
And they're the pictures that I'm telling you about in the local museum, done by Andrew Hillfoot, I'm presuming.
We'll get a look at them later.
There's two sisters were there. Two sisters actually owned the house. With and one was looking after them upstairs, one was downstairs. So that's how tight quarters they were when they were at the aftermath of the battle.
So, should be able to get up here. A wee look. So, like it says on it, to CCL Gardner, who fell in the Battle of Prestonpans, 21st September 1745. As it's a faithful man and feared God above many.
You got the lions, signified.
2 lions.
Do you know this was actually built before the monument in Culloden?
Was it? Anything round? Look at the lions, and I think Indiana Jones. No.
Erected by British construction, 1853.
Neighbourhood alike hallowed by his life and renowned by his death, gratefully accept the guardsmanship of his memory. And you were saying erected by public subscription.
It's quite a lot of.
So this was erected in 1853.
Yeah, 1850s, yeah. Years after the battle.
Oh, and they would have
Prestonpans.
sent a letter around and said, you know, his valour, his high scorn of death, to fame's proud meed no impulse owed. His was a pure, unsullied zeal for Britain and for God. He fell, he died, the exalted foe trod careless o'er his noble clay, yet not in vain our champion fought in that disastrous fray. Yeah, there you go.
You can just see the this is what excites me, when you can just suss things out. You're looking at the entranceway here, you look at the trees. I shouldn't imagine he planted the trees or his wife planted the trees. Look at some of these trees, how mature they are. So I should imagine, I'm 99.9% sure that this was the entranceway leading into the house. So you can just imagine him, picture him on a horse and cart just coming up down here.
Bear with me, guys. I'm gonna just pause the video for a second because I want to be able to, can I zoom in for you?
Zoom in.
Zoom in? Nah, no zooming.
Not having it.
It's not having it. It's a pain.
Well, all I can say is, well,
it keeps the setting for the last video.
I wonder what type of man he was. You never know.
Try this one more time. Right, we're here. We can zoom. Well, we can semi-zoom. Just get a bit closer. You can see it. So you're reading into the guy.
Yeah, well, what I was reading about him is that he was back in. He's been in the army since he was 14-year-old. So obviously a career soldier. Fought in numerous campaigns abroad. And while he was younger, I mean, he even fought at the Battle of Preston in 1715. another Jacobite encounter, and he was a captain then, and he was quite, should we say, willing to take no prisoners. So he certainly had a reputation. And he was wounded several times, like I said to you before, shot in the neck, had quite a number of scars on his face. And before he met his wife, Frances Erskine, he was, should we say, a little bit, should we say, loose when it came to the army. And his mother, unfortunately, it's actually a long line of military people. His father was in the military, his uncle and his brother. So it's a family of war, not so much mongers, but, you know, war veterans. I believe his father was a captain killed in the Battle of Blenheim in 1706 in France, you know, the Duke of Marlborough, that campaign. So he lived. Now, I'm not sure whether his mother lived with him. I'm not quite sure about that, but his mother, while he was on campaign, his mother sent him a religious pamphlet. And ever since then, he calmed his ways and he turned to God. He was quite a religious man. That seemed to calm him down a bit. He saw the other side, he saw God, and he became very, very religious person, churchified, married in the church, and that calmed him down a bit. So whether he saw the error of his ways and he became more, should we say, chilled to a certain extent, I don't know. But he had a tendency to do things off the cuff. Like, for example, when I said to you, when they spotted the Jacobites at Prestonpans on the high ground, he wanted to charge them. And of course, John Cope told him not to be so foolish. He wouldn't stand a chance. But whether he just had every now and again, he just went off the rails. I mean, when you're a military commander, you've got to have a certain respect from your men. Now, why did his men run off and leave him? Is it because he was inexperienced, or because they didn't respect him? So all these questions. It's still a shame they actually got killed in the battle, and the way he died. But after that, Fanny left. His wife left, moved into Edinburgh, and the house, as you can see now, obviously it's been refurbished back to its former glory. It was ransacked. I mean, the Jacobites were just running riot after the battle. If not chasing the redcoats, he was looting and pillaging all houses in the area.
Well, a lot of these houses, they probably still, and the land is still in a document held by the family, unless they passed on to somebody. Yeah. So sometimes you'll find that the people that live in these houses, they might not necessarily be direct descendants of the people that we're talking about, but they're in the history of the purchasing and the handing over the documents of whoever, or the king obviously at the time, would have given this land to. I have been in a number of houses where they have the actual documents maybe on the wall with the original seal. Yeah. I've been in the Sheriff of Northumberland's house and seen that very document when my sister-in-law worked for them, or for
it's just a shame though, a house like this with so much history and so much prominence is just left. All right, it had a couple of £1,000 spent on it to renovate it, but to a certain extent, Simon, it's just obviously it's not been used.
Yeah.
I'm presuming the outer buildings have been used.
You can see the outer buildings at the other side,
well,
and
that's not been used. It's just
newer.
Yeah.
You know, if you can see what I'm looking at, and I almost imagine people are living in that area and not in that house, because I don't know. It's interesting because at the side of it, it almost looks like there's steps.
Yeah.
Or some sort of, like, angled wall on either side. So is that like some other sort of steps to get into it?
Like I said to you before, you can see how grand it was by looking at the tree line and the entranceway leading into the building.
It is just a square building, really.
Well, that's the Georgian way, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's how they were built. But you can just see the master of the house, or the servant of the house, going out to the battlefield and picking up Colonel Gardner on the back of a cart and bringing him back into the building. and then going back to Trenant House, Trenant Mass, with his body again, trying to get seek medical attention for him, knowing that he was dying. And I think the battle was about 3 o'clock in the early hours, and by 11 o'clock he was dead.
Some life, eh?
So ungone. And just think of the grief and the upset of his wife, seeing him in that condition, being dragged in a little cart, half naked, with a dirty big gaping wound on his head. So it's only a matter of time. I know it sounds off, but it's only a matter of time before he died.
Yeah, people can live with serious head wounds, but
back in them days,
for long, they become infected and
loss of blood, everything.
But yeah, this whole area is cut off by the train track. You have to get over it. I think they just chose a historic site and just built right through it, didn't they?
The Victorians are more spectacle hunters, weren't they? And train tracks went through everything near enough. I mean, it cuts right through the battle site, right through the actual building near enough. And of course, it's a prime example of to see it from the train. Look at this beautiful monument. Obviously, that's one of the main reasons why they put it there, as well as with the house. But obviously, so sightseers can see it from the train.
Yeah, they're.
I mean, the main talking Edinburgh, people going to Edinburgh, the main back in the day in the Victorian times was the train, wasn't it?
Yeah. Coming past, looking out the window, went, all right, okay.
Look at that, yeah.
Check it out. We'll just.
Johnny Cultural, and that's on the main. What's it in there? It's got Kenzie House up there. So you can actually, looking at that then, Sam, you can actually, is that a walkway?
Possibly. Yeah, you could do like, I imagine it's you can walk all the way through this town. You know,
that's where we are. So it's only a stone's throw away from. That's where the high ground, that's what I told you about the Jacobites. That's where they came from.
I'm interested in the churches more than anything else, because I want to. Is it that church maybe called the Hugh?
Yeah,
or is
that's the church there, Trenant Church, which is down there. Which was, I'm presuming, is that way. That's where the first.
It's that way.
Is it that way?
Yeah.
So that's where the first sort of.
That's Prestonpans over
right.
there.
So that's where the first with the Camerons, and they came across the redcoats. That's where all the action was to start off with. That's on the 20th.
But I wonder if there's any stones, you know, and here as well.
I'd like to see if there's any sort of musket shots within that, you know, on the graves.
All right, okay.
You know, in the area where they had a little bit of a saute with each other.
I could sat nav it and just go there.
But you know, did this,
So we're going to go to the museum, or what?
Yeah, go to the museum.
Yeah.
See where we go from there, and then we'll make plans for where we're going to go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you say, you want to go there, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, you're looking at a battlefield, you're thinking where people are going to be buried. They're not being left on the battlefield here. Certainly not British soldiers. There might be some remnants of Highland soldiers there, you don't know. But most likely we're going to find.
That's one thing you never find out, is it? What happens to, you know, we're talking battles. What happens to the bodies? Who takes care of the bodies? Where do they move to? Are they buried on the site, or they move somewhere? Obviously, people with money.
Yes.
Can afford.
Well, you know, this chap here, where's he buried?
Well, he's actually buried in that church that you just seen.
Yeah.
But we don't know where he's buried in the church, because of the church has been renovated and and bits and pieces added to it. I think that he may have been buried.
If you're talking British forces, there's a whole chance that they can be buried in London, or any other English town in which they came from. You know, they would have been taken back. General soldiers sometimes would have just been buried in pits.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, look at Culloden. I mean, apparently they were buried just in the pits. Where they fell. I think a lot of them. I mean, it's different back in the day, the likes of Bannockburn, even the English bodies, or the British, whatever you want to call them, Edward II's army. I mean, even though they were dead, they were still worth money. You still had to ransom them, you still had to pay for them, because a lot of people back down south wanted their son or their father buried in their family crypt. So they had to pay money to the likes of Robert de Bruce to get the bodies back.
Now this here does say 1745 Bankton House. I am wondering, it does say 1745 private footpath available for visitors only when unlocked. So if it's unlocked, we might just be able to get to it. It certainly looks unlocked. Let's have a go.
Might be able to get a better view of that.
Come on then, folks. Let's go. Don't want to end up like last time, you know. Down trees as well, so that's interesting. Not many people coming through here. Yeah.
Get a better view of it.
Yeah.
Dove top, or Dove cube, whatever how you guys say it.
It does say private property, so we have to be careful. I do want to go and read the sign. Just see what it says.
Get some of the temples so we could actually...
Bankton Ducoot. So what I was looking at was side of a roof. Visitor's site dedicated to Bankton's most recent resident, James Carver, who fell the Battle of Prestonpans. 10:06. Entrance in the east wall. There's a preservation trust sign here. Nature Park Restoration. Yeah, it's even got its own cat. Lord of the Manor. I don't really want.
See, that's private property, that, isn't it? That
Yeah, it does say private property, but I just want to be careful. And I don't really want to piss anybody off. We have actually seen the building, and you know, it would be nice to get inside, but not likely. Right, just come just the corner, just so I can get an angle. It's like going to Area 52, eh? It's like 51, I forget. Being the alien aficionado here, you know, you'd think I'd know. I just don't remember. Getting old. But yeah. Cat's still checking me out. And it looks like it might have a garden in there as well out the back. So it has its own garden area with a fence. A wee door. Right, we'll call the video here. We're just going to soak up the atmosphere privately. We'll see if we get to the museum. Yeah, if you lived there, he says, you know, you'd be harassing, you'd be around there all the time. I'm like, in his local area, he is well known. Walking around with a torch. Said group's going to get renamed to History and Haunted Adventures, out of respect for Karl. And we'll put history first because we like the history, and then we find the ghosts. Most of our stuff during the day has been effectively history. Not saying that there isn't any ghosts during the day, but well, we've got so much to talk about and check out. Although I was kind of hoping for, you know, kind of like when we went to Almond Castle, that we, you know, if people were getting scared off the site and we were entering the place, that we might pick up something interesting. Yeah, I'm of the belief that it's any time of the day, but the more I do these things, the more I think a lot of these places take on a completely different feel at night. So yeah, there you go, food for thought. Right, see you at the museum. We're at the museum, folks.
Oh, yes.
So you were dressed up like that character over there.
So I was wearing those very clothes.
Wow. Can you still fit into them? Yeah, you look like you can.
I made them.
Really?
What's the chances that we would come to the museum and we would meet the very chap?
Yeah. So we opened this museum about 3 years ago. As the first step to having a permanent exhibition about the battle.
So I was talking to Sam, it's just a shame that the layout's actually gone. You've got the railway all the way through it, and you've got the sports complex, what have you, so
yeah.
Is this the map over here?
It's a challenge,
yeah.
But yeah, and that's why we built this, to try and
recreate some of the...
Get an idea of...
Get a sense of the layout.
Yeah, how it was.
Yeah.
Ah, so here we are, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, so the way they're positioned.
Yeah, so obviously the Jacobites had started on the west side,
and the high ground,
and then it ended up coming all the way around and to attack from the east.
Was this house here?
So that's Preston House.
That's Preston House, right?
Which is long gone.
Ah.
So the talk this afternoon was actually about proving where those park walls
Preston
were.
Tower. We went past Preston Tower.
Yeah.
Just as we came into it.
Yeah. So that was already ruinous by the time of the battle, and there's a local story that people watched from the parapet. They were very early risers if they did.
And this is where they were their own.
Well, even after the battlefield itself, even the actual the Preston House, Preston Tower, even that was a killing ground.
Yeah.
And charging even the redcoats were running away.
So I imagine even that church is gone then.
So that church has been rebuilt, so that's where Trinent Church is still.
Well,
now.
originally, I believe that's where Colonel Gardner, we believe, is buried.
Yes.
But because of the renovations and the extensions, we reckon that his body might be under one of the
That's
new,
right, one of the new
wings.
Yeah. So it was rebuilt 1799, 1800. On the same foundations, but it's a slightly bigger church, which is why there's that extension that we think covers Gardner's grave. And then there's that ravine where Alan Cameron was killed by that exchange of fire previously. So the viewpoint is just here at the Meadow Mill, next to the old wagonway line.
Even this building here at the corner, the sort of style of it,
That's the Hamiltons.
Yes,
the reason I had that one.
Hamilton House, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Preston House, Bankton House, and the Tower and Hamilton House, they were all originally built for branches of the Hamiltons.
Yeah. Very powerful family back in the day.
But Preston House in the middle there was owned at the time by Lord Grange, who's the brother of the Jacobite Earl of Mar.
Oh.
So he was constantly being accused of
sympathies towards
sympathies.
Yeah.
But he was the local MP. He was down in London with the battle.
Do you have pictures here of? Is it Andrew Hillhouse?
Yes.
You've still got the pictures here.
Yeah. So Andy Hillhouse's pictures.
Oh, right, there we go. Yeah.
Up here.
Yeah.
So there's these three on that wall. Surrender of the baggage train over there, and then this one here, which is this was actually the last painting he did.
Right before he died.
Which ironically was
the aftermath.
Yeah. So I worked with Andrew on the details of the paintings when we commissioned.
They're great paintings.
They are, they're very in depth and very, true to life.
I had that idea of sort of seeing one of these paintings, and before I'd even been here, I knew where it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it used to be the Gothenburg. It used to be there at one stage.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Remember seeing him in there?
Yeah, they used to be in there. And then this is our Colonel Gardner corner.
Right.
So this is the
Is that the thorn tree? Where he was found by his manservant.
Those letters there were letters that he wrote to his wife in 1743 when he was over in Germany in the War of the Austrian Succession.
Believe he found God.
He certainly did. Yeah. Or it found him.
Yeah. And did the tree blow down in about 1920s?
Yeah, 1920s, and then was replaced by the memorial cairns there now, although not in the same location. But the location is so well recorded, we know exactly where it was.
Because it was on quite a lot of maps, wasn't it, in the 18th century, 19th century maps. Even I believe a farmyard got named Thornton.
That's right, Thorntree Mains, Thorntree Fields, yeah.
I'd like to see something like this at Falkirk as well.
Yeah, so there are plans.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, so I'm involved with the project to try and do something similar. So it's taken us over 10 years to get to this stage.
Yeah.
And this is still designed to do first step.
Yeah.
Maybe we walk round.
The actual size of the visual plans that were fired by not fired by this, but seen when they ran.
Barrel size, yes.
Is it Colonel Whiteman who actually fired?
Whitefight, yeah. So the carriage is a little bit big, but they were designed to be pulled by a single pony, manned by a team of 4 or 5. Obviously, as you know, the Prestonpans.
And I believe as well that one of the incentives of John Cope was that if they did win this battle, they could loot Leith and Edinburgh.
Well, that was the published.
That's brave, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is, to be fair to General Cope, there is no evidence that he ever said it, but it was published by the Jacobite press.
Do you think it's just
I
propaganda?
Think the Jacobites published it in Edinburgh after the battle on the same sheet as Prince Charlie's speech before the Battle of Prestonpans. So what they were trying to do was say, which side are you on?
Yeah.
And so I think that was propaganda for the Edinburgh audience. And it was very effective.
But it certainly made them listen.
It did.
How quickly do you think you could turn one of these if you're suddenly changing position, Well, they're coming to the left of us. We need to suddenly turn them round.
That's what if you pick up the trails, you
just turn it.
spin it around quite easily. The problem is that you've then got a gun next to you.
You've got to move them on.
So you can manhandle these relatively easily. That's why they're the smallest cannon that the British Army carried, and they were going out of fashion. 1.5 pounders. The guns at Prestonpans were mostly 45, 50 years old by the time of the battle, which again we know because the Jacobites made an inventory of them and wrote down everything, what wagon numbers were on the boxes,
which is unusual.
And they wrote down the dates that were cast on the barrels. So, and we can pick them up again when the Jacobites abandoned them at Carlisle, because the British Army then inventories them again.
Oh, right.
And so I can track the same guns through the course of the war, which is quite neat. And the Jacobites abandoned them at Carlisle because they're small 1.5 pounders. They take just as much effort to move around as bigger guns, but they can't do anything against the walls of Stirling or
And if you've got Highlanders coming towards you, from a direction, you might turn, but you've lost distance wise unless you're shooting right into them.
So these, on the battlefield itself, we know that they fired a grape shot. The only reason we know that is because we've started finding it on the battlefield.
Ah, right, okay.
So we've got a piece over here.
Did we do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
We were just talking about that earlier, weren't we?
Yeah, but I didn't realise they had grape shot. I thought that was at Culloden.
No, they were using it here too.
Oh. No.
Because,
Every day's a school day.
Yeah, because that's one there.
Oh.
And we've now, I think, got 3 pieces that have been found on the field, all in the Jacobite lines.
You would have thought if you had grape shot, the Jacobites would have had a lot more casualties, surely.
Yeah, I think it's a maximum of 5 guns firing once. So that's so you've got a limited amount of it being fired, and I suspect they're firing it at too long a range.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the 50 or so casualties the Jacobites do take are obviously taken during that charge, and I suspect quite a few of them are attributable to the grape.
Maybe, yeah.
You would have got caught with it, yeah.
And the rest to the volleys. But they'll all have been concentrated in the cameras and the Stuarts.
Some of the Canterbury reports saying that, like I was telling you, one of the McGregors, Malcolm McGregor, he was leading the charge, got... Now, he doesn't say, he said he was mortally wounded by shrapnel, by a musket ball. But it could be the grape shot.
Easily,
And you wouldn't know, would you?
Yeah. And of course, he had to be forced up and to rally his troops again, thinking that he was dead, because to a certain extent, the match stopped.
Stopped the momentum. Yeah.
So that could be,
That's quite a feared round, really. I mean,
You don't want that coming
flying through the air. I mean,
if that hits dead on, everybody's hurt.
The prime example was Culloden. I mean, it devastated the ranks, the Jacobite ranks at Culloden.
But at Culloden, it's being fired by professional Royal Artillery crews at close range, in near perfect conditions in that sense. Here, it's being fired by a small number of officers in the midst of a panic, and every time you fire it, it panics your horses.
Because it's got a sound. I would imagine it has a bit of a popping kind of sound. I can almost hear it.
So this is a targe that was used for an experiment. So so that's a musket ball through, and so it was built specifically to be shot at, basically to test.
It wouldn't stop a musket.
No. Well, we proved that.
Right. So it's just leather.
So and two layers of ply, glued and then wrapped in the. We did some experiments have shown that at the right angle, the studs can deflect or deform a musket ball sufficiently to limit its power. Now, even on this example, although it went through, it did not penetrate. You can just about see there. It did not penetrate the backing leather. So the shield stopped the ball. It probably would have broken your arm if you were holding it, because of the shock of the force.
I should imagine at close quarters as well. You go right through.
It could turn anything in that.
It all depends on distance, and it depends on angle. And if that's angled, it's got a better chance of deflecting something. But you've got to have quite a lot of force to get through 2 layers of of wood there, and especially if it hits the studs. But I wouldn't put my life in its hands, running against it. Certainly not running against one of those.
Yeah, well, that's it. And it's an old Victorian thing, isn't it? When you've got a claymore, a shield,
and yet they must have had usefulness, because we know the Jacobites were producing them specifically to issue.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be issuing them unless they gave them value. But I think that value is all about stopping a bayonet.
Yeah.
It's not about stopping a musket ball.
Yeah.
Well, like you say, at Culloden, though, it was a different scenario altogether, wasn't it? I mean, it was trained, disciplined, and not get your man in front, get your man to the left.
So so to an extent, I think that's a placebo. So they feel like they're doing something different. I mean, if you think about that moment of contact and the Highland Charge coming in, nobody's standing there going, "Oh well, if I go to the right."
Well, the thing is, if you're a Highlander, you come to somebody who's charged there.
Absolutely, that's where you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, the training, more or less, for the British Army should have been no different for the Redcoats that were here to those that were at Culloden, except they developed that drill.
Procedure.
But the difference is that those men at Culloden have been through battle before.
Oh yeah.
Whereas most of the rank and file at Prestonpans, who've been in the army for 2-3+ years.
I mean, I was telling you, there's some of them there who actually fixing the roads at Loch Lomond.
Yeah.
The engineers knew enough.
So they're trained soldiers, but the way that it worked generally is that you didn't do large formation training unless you were on campaign. So like you say, if you're suddenly pulling groups in that are 12 men up there and 15 men over there, pulling them all together, then their drill is not going to pass Whitehall inspection.
Colt must have had some sort of idea that they might do the job.
Yeah.
What he was saying, and for how he deployed his troops, and for how he acted at his court-martial. Yeah. He thought that they'd do the business. What do they call them? Jacobite scum, Jacobite rebel. Yeah. A rebel scum. They had no organisation, run by somebody who's got no idea whatsoever.
Yeah. And fighting, fighting in a way that they're not accustomed to. No. So the British Army is trained to fight French armies, and that's what they're expected to do. Volley fire. And that's what Cope says himself. He said it's the speed and ferocity of the attack that we're not able to resist. If we've got a second line, then.
Well, that was one of the things that he mentioned when he tried to regroup his troops by saying, "Give them another volley, lads, and they'll be away." Yeah. But obviously,
once that line's penetrated, it's over.
Lost.
You've got no reserves. I've some sympathy for Cope's position, because he was undermanned, under-resourced, because he was expecting to fight a war with essentially a peacetime garrison, and nobody was really taking the threat that seriously. Until Prestonpans, then all of a sudden there's panic. Yeah. And there's this wonderful letter from the Secretary of State for Scotland that's written on the morning of the Battle of Prestonpans, saying, "I look forward to receiving news of your victory." But by the time he's put that in the post, the battle's already lost. That overconfidence of the authorities that you can deal with this.
Yeah. But he never got to be in charge of an army again, did he?
No, he didn't.
That was it. That was his last and final, I'm afraid.
So I think he didn't suffer any official punishment. But I think
but it's a shame that the rank and file ended up being, like you say, it was because of status and class.
Well, he was exploited the Prime Minister, lived in all the right places. And also, he was promoted Lieutenant General on the same day as Cumberland was, on the battlefield of Dettingen, by George II. So it's pretty embarrassing for one of your chosen favourites to suddenly. What happened? Yeah. But there was a later account I found in an archive in Derbyshire, where General Cope was putting out feelers for a commission in as a governor in Ireland. Cushy number. But the response from the King's Secretary was, His Majesty's ears are not yet accustomed to certain sounds, which I think is a very polite Georgian way of saying, don't ask the King, because he will say no. Yeah.
So, it's not what he wants to hear.
Your name is still on the list. And funnily enough, Thomas Fulk, who was his Brigadier General for Cavalry at Prestonpans, they stayed friends long after. He was one of the other.
He was a court-martial,
But Fulk makes a mistake when he's governor of Gibraltar and doesn't send reinforcements to the Minorca attack, and he is dismissed the service outright. That was relatively rare to dismiss a Brigadier General. And I absolutely think that he had a black mark on their neck.
Because of what happened.
No official reprimands, cleared inquiry, but your careers are marked.
Yeah.
Next mistake.
You know, of course. Well, that's the,
You know.
So there's a copy of the inquiry report in the case there.
I think there was no disco ball during that battle.
No, but this,
I saw that there, and I was like,
town hall has seen
yeah.
lots of parties.
Oh, definitely.
Since. And so when we converted it to the museum, we kept the spotlights,
Mm-hmm.
the stage. The Bay City Rollers played the stage here in the 70s. And
Oh,
all sorts
wow.
of things. So,
a bit before my time.
so a lot of people,
Yeah.
definitely before mine. So when we moved in, we did a lot of talk with locals about what their memories were of this building.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to keep a few of the features.
Yeah.
Disco ball included.
Right here. Just to show you was killed and then stripped of all the clothes on. General Gardner.
Well, I think it's got a value.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been taking one look at that.
Yeah, a guy called John McNaughton, and he was executed at Karl, specifically for killing Gardner. Now he was in Strathallan's Perthshire squadron, which spent the whole battle at Trinent. He wasn't on the battlefield. Now they swept down afterwards to help round up prisoners, but I'm absolutely sure McNaughton was a watchmaker from Edinburgh, and I don't think he was anywhere near. But I think they needed to.
A scapegoat.
They needed a scapegoat for it. He protested his innocence. The government produced as it was able to do.
I was telling Simon's well, it's the same as the piper, James Reed, the piper who got hung in York because he never took up arms, but he played the pipes.
Yeah.
And the assizers said, well, Highland.
It's a weapon of war.
Highland backed on the pipes.
Yeah.
So he got. Just a strange.
Yeah, no, they weren't looking for much evidence.
No.
They needed to get you through the list very quickly. We've just been doing a bit of research on a local man here who actually farmed part of the battlefield. He joined with the Jacobite army. Now, he later protested that he'd been forced to, but actually he was in Elco's lifeguards. And, I don't think you get conscripted into the lifeguards.
Right. they were enough the actual their own personal bodyguard.
Yeah, no, they were gentlemen of some means,
yeah.
and
They were the Bannockburn House.
They were uniformed and very smart. So I don't think they were going around conscripting men. I think he was well into it. There's one person who accused him of actually selling horses to the regiment. So I suspect he was well involved. But he was taken after Culloden and tried. He wasn't tried, sorry, because he was sent on one of the transport ships down to Tilbury, and they drew lots. And if you drew the right lot, you got a trial and a chance at least to get out of it. Otherwise, transportation. So he didn't draw the lot for a trial, unfortunately. So we didn't get lots of paperwork for him. But he did write a letter saying, honestly, Guff, I didn't want to do it. And the local minister did send a letter down saying, he's always been very good. He's always been to church, but it wasn't enough. But yeah, they were just trying to get people through the system.
Is any truth in the rumour that is it a guy called John Anderson that actually
Robert Anderson?
It actually the pathway to around the marshes. So that's a true story.
That's true. Now it often gets sort of boiled down to helpful local Johnny. But the Andersons were out in 1715. They were an influential family. Robert Anderson himself.
So they had Jacobite sympathies?
They were absolutely Jacobites.
Right.
Robert Anderson had already joined the army. He's not just sitting in the field waiting to be helpful.
Right.
He's already in the army. He's on the quartermaster's staff.
Oh, right.
So he's in an influential staff position. And the family, extended family, leases part of the battlefield. So they know this. Right. They know this landscape inside out. So it's absolutely true. It's just slightly more nuanced than helpful local man.
Yeah, that's what
through the marshes.
A lot of the accounts say that.
No, they were a Jacobite supporting family. I say his father had been out in 1715. He himself was enthusiastically out in 45.
Right. So there you go. Every day's a school day.
Yeah, well, there's always more. I've been studying this battle for 15, 20 years, and there's always more. We're always finding new things.
That's the unique.
I think there's more on the site, or has it been really?
There's absolutely more on the site.
Yeah.
So has any archaeology actually been done on the battle site?
The last full survey was done in 2009. and that was in the far eastern portion of the battlefield. There is still stuff being found locally, but what I haven't found, to my satisfaction at least, is any actual contact point. So there's lots of munitions, but what we're not finding lots of is broken pieces and bits and buckles and belts. When you compare it to Cleugh, for example, and even Culloden, all right, there's lots more people, and there's a more protracted press of contact. But there's all these broken items in high concentrations. We don't have that here. Now, there's two reasons for that. Either it's because they really did run away before the charge made contact, which is possible, or it's just because we haven't surveyed the right parts of the field. And I think that's because we need to be looking behind the British line, or behind the initial lines of munitions. So there's a big area of the battlefield, and funnily enough, we're working up a plan for hopefully creating an archaeology project for the next 2 years or so to get out.
Is it certain areas you've got to leave as well because of the because it's a historic site?
With the right permissions, we can survey the field. We have to ensure is that it's the right survey under the right conditions and that everything is recorded. Because the munitions themselves or the artifacts themselves are interesting, but they don't contribute to the story unless we know where exactly they're found and how they're layered together and how they're distributed. Now, it's been intensively farmed, the battlefield, since the 18th century.
And they turn the soil.
Changed.
Stuff will get dragged.
But that core area where the army is actually met has never been anything other than farmed. So it's not been developed, it's not had vast amounts of topsoil dumped on it from elsewhere, it's not been mined. So that core area still has the material in it, potentially. Now, that material has probably been wandering up and down the field as the plough's gone over the centuries, but it will still be able to tell us the story. So I absolutely think there's still
something there. More stories to tell.
And there's for a long time there was a tradition that the battlefield was further west, because as happens with lots of battlefields, is it shrinks in people's minds. The battlefield area always gets smaller.
I've said this about Bannockburn, how it's gone from.
They all start to shrink, and you think, oh well, that's it there, inside that convenient hedged area or whatever. And so there was a bit of that happened at Prestonpans, that it became associated with a particular area around the wagon way, and that's where everybody went to look for the battlefield. Well, actually, it was across the road, really, mostly. So I don't think that field has been exhausted, because for a long time people were looking at the other areas, and no graves have been found on the battlefield.
That's what we were asking.
Now I say that there were graves supposedly found at the end of the 18th century, and there's some bones were found in the 1950s, although not examined. They were reinterred at the memorial. They were just assumed to be from the battlefield. But there are also bones that were found in the late 19th century that are recorded in local press and so on, which we now subsequently know to be Iron Age and prehistoric. If you find bones on the battlefield, you assume it's from the battle, but of course that's not always the case. One of the things I was talking about this afternoon in the presentation was about where we think that actually we can pinpoint where some of the burial trenches are likely to have been. And they're in developed parts of the town.
So presumably the town folk came out and buried especially the regular soldiers as they were, and obviously your colonels and your more higher ranking.
So other than Gardner, most high-ranking officers were taken prisoner rather than.
We're talking about 80, I believe.
So there's a high proportion of officers taken, but not a lot of high proportion that are killed. We know from Sullivan's memoir that he gave the order on the Prince's command to get the bodies dealt with, and that the order he gave was that the local people should bring their own picks and shovels to come and bury the bodies. And they've done that under Jacobite officer supervision. But the advantage of that, in a sense, is that because they're the local people who are also the people who farm the fields and know the landscape, is that they won't be burying them in places that they think they'll be ploughing them up again. So they'll be bringing them to the edges of field boundaries or towards roadways, or just to places where they don't think they'll be disturbing them, because they don't want to be digging them up. And there's evidence that you don't necessarily expect, but you find in the burial records from decades later, where, for example, there are 2 suicides in the later 18th centuries, and obviously they can't be buried in the churchyard. So where do they bury them? They bury them in Thorntree Field.
Right.
And that's because there is an association of that field with dead bodies. And so that is the folk memory.
Locally, they would have known,
a generation later, that says, well, we'll put them where the other bodies are. And so that's what I think is happening. So I think we can pin the area where it happened, because we know there's local people involved.
Right.
And they can check that when they're doing anything there.
And where they're only drawn on one of the maps of the battlefield from the time. It indicates the burial trenches, and that's done by a British Army engineer and surveyor, Elphinstone, and they are, sure enough, either side of a road junction. So I think that's what's happened, is they've been concentrated, drawn off the battlefield, away from the good farmland, and put in plots where they're unlikely to be disturbed. But that's the process of discovering all of that minutiae of what happens to a battlefield after the fighting stops is just as interesting.
Well, I've always said that, because there's no record. 9 times out of 10, after a battlefield, there's no record of what's happened to the bodies.
No.
You're naturally assuming that some are buried on the actual site itself.
It's often only after, later
I've said
in history that we start to really...
Bannockburn, what happened to the thousands of people at Bannockburn? Were they just buried there? Were they taken somewhere else? A lot of them were ransomed because of the high-ranking nobility that were there. So their bodies were what the soldiers, the regular soldiers, where they buried.
King in a car park.
That's a
classic example.
That's
and even at Culloden as well. Are they actually buried in where they say it's buried, in the mounds?
Well, we think they're in those areas.
There's no geophys that actually to actually say there's excellent.
There's certainly anomalies, but what they certainly aren't is divvied up by clan in the way that they're presented by those 19th century memorial stones, because that's not what happens on a battlefield. The difference at Culloden, I suppose, is that there isn't actually a large native population on the battlefield, whereas here you've got a couple of thousand people who live on the battlefield, and so they've got an interest in clearing this place up.
Because that's their livelihood.
People, we don't have a habit of digging up dead bodies, right? We only really do it when we're, for example, like in London, they were building underground. They had to go through places. They build a road. They build the railway. That is when they were doing those things, and then we might uncover them and maybe move them.
No, and the other interesting point on that score is that we know that that some of those who were treated well, some of those officers who were wounded and are looked after well by the Jacobites, then go to the effort of writing up character reports, essentially, when those Jacobites themselves are then on trial after Culloden. It doesn't, in most cases, make a lot of difference, but we know in some cases it does. And the fact that efforts were made to look after people was
this is before the Geneva Convention, remember?
But you did say there was carts prepared. That's quite an interesting thing, that you would have carts prepared for injured, possibly dead, sitting there at the side of a battle. It makes the kind of men think,
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think they brought them with them, but they knew they'd got those arrangements in a sense, and that seems to be down to Murray Broughton. And he sort of says something slightly flippant along, we'll need them whether they're for us or for them. But you are unusually close to a large population of medical men here. So in that sense, it's convenient.
And back in those days, if everybody's scarpered and there's some people, and it's not one of these one battlefields where the dead's there and they're killing them off,
Well, imagine when they charged the carnage, the arms missing, what have you, legs, what have you, and even thrusting through the survival, even with that sort of injury, is next to nothing. Even though you have surgeons and medical people there, you can only do
local
so much.
people would come onto these sites at night and pillage.
And loot.
Well, one of the things that is said by Sir John MacDonald, who was an Irish officer on the staff, he says that the first people to plunder the bodies at Prestonpans were the women attached to the British camp.
They stayed at Edinburgh, Aberdeen. Families were still at Aberdeen.
No, they shipped down because they're in the Whiteford papers. he has lists of how many women went onto each of the transport ships.
Oh, right.
So they came down. So those are the only two. Those are the only two places where they crop up visibly in the sources. Whiteford tells us counting them on to the ships.
Yeah.
And then Sir John Macdonald says it was the bloody women from the British Army that came up to clear the bodies first. So that's where they appear. So they shipped them down.
Oh, I never knew that. I thought the family stayed in Edinburgh, Aberdeen,
No.
before they embarked on Dunbar.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, during the Georgian period, it was even during the American Civil War, had like spectators watching the state of play.
Or like standing back and watching it and going,
It's ridiculous.
bloody
like
good
a
show.
spectacle,
Yeah, well, because we had happily almost reached a stage where these things were not common on your doorstep.
Yeah.
That, war and conflict was something that happened overseas, and there's been a couple of generations of that by now, with the exception of these bloody Jacobites who keep stirring up the pot. And so you're right, there were people. There are anecdotes here locally of people coming across the Forth in order to see the battle.
The spectacle, yeah.
And we know that Adam Skirving, farmer from down the road, rides up to the battlefield as soon as he heard it's happened to have a look around, and then writes his poems and Hey Johnny Coke and all that. And he says he gets mugged by a Highlander whilst he's sightseeing. So,
Can you remind me, is it associated with this battle, or is there another battle that's at Musselburgh on that river?
yeah, so I think you're thinking of Pinkie Cleugh there.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
1547.
I was going to take you there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that's a great site. There's some interpretation and a monument up there. But that's it. I mean, that's probably the biggest battle ever fought in Scotland.
Yes.
It's enormous and disastrous, which is why it has very limited sort of cultural legacy.
Was it the last? It wasn't the last. It's something about it that was. It was the largest.
It's certainly one of the largest.
What the largest contingent with the Scottish was Flodden.
This is yeah. That's on the wrong side of the border there. So this is the largest battle in Scotland.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say. But it's also it's usually considered, depending on which side of the field you're on, actually, either the last of the sort of medieval battles or the first of the modern battles.
Yeah.
Because the English army at Pinkie is deploying combined arms. It's got archery, but it's also got handguns and artillery. And it's got naval support firing during the battle, and it uses all arms strategy, as it was.
They have a statue of an archer, and it's the Roman bridge that I used to walk across every day when I first moved down here. I didn't know that was there.
Yeah,
you passed it coming here.
That's a huge battle, and.
It's like modern warfare against ancient warfare in the sense of bow and arrows against muskets.
Well, the Scots were more or less using the same tactics they'd used at Flodden, and they got pretty much the same result. You move massed pike formations into a ploughed field, it gets stuck, and
One day I'll take you to Poland.
That's why you built the wall at Edinburgh.
I'll take you to Poland.
An English invasion.
And we'll take you to the Battle of Grunwald or Tannenberg. That's one of the largest, I think, in Europe, was it not?
The story that Murray picked up on Murray Pitlock actually said that during Culloden, I don't know if you've heard it, to do with during the Battle of Culloden, there was a B plan for Cumberland. Apparently there was 5 frigates on the bay, full of Marines, ready to pound the Jacobites if they won from the coast.
Yeah, well, they were certainly there. They certainly got the capacity.
So,
right.
So,
you're keeping this man from...
That's all right. We've got my volunteers.
Thank you very much for,
Pay him
They close at 4.
Yeah. What time is it now?
4 o'clock.
Oh, right. I'm just going to walk round here and have a look at this and come round the other side. And thank you, sir.
Could have been there all night.
So let's have a look at the tapestry, yeah. So it starts here. I'm just going to quickly go over it because it's quite interesting, give you the bit of the battle.
That's the Highland Charge. Similar to it's the one that we saw on the actual...
This is the one that we saw in the pictures.
Yeah.
This is the actual one.
The gun is there running.
I really like these tapestries that are like created by the locals, done in the style. It says finish here, but I'm just going to go that way. You can see it. You see them running. There's them firing. Yeah, I want to be able to get some of these in frame. But you got a very interesting report of the battle there, which was brilliant. It was brilliant to get that. There's a commemoration of the battle. Ceremony at the cairn, it's called. Lock of hair. Oh, lock of hair of Prince Charles Edward Stuart. A lock of hair of Prince Charles Edward
I think he's one
Stuart.
at Ellangowran Castle as well, if I remember rightly.
Interesting. Right, let's let these people go home. And
Interesting that the track, I didn't know they actually used
arenas. Yeah, great shot.
Yeah, I didn't.
I can see, I you know what it looks like, how it's put together.
Yeah.
Most of these things were just sort of like cylinders, but that was wrapped.
Was a bush, now it was a tree that Colonel Gardner was laid down.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up and give the people their piece, and we'll catch you. We might pop in by somewhere else. We don't know. Will we? We'll see. Right. See you later, guys. Right, we're back. Back at another battle.
That was interesting talk, wasn't it, with the man? Fantastic.
Yeah. Wait, he did us proud.
Preston Tower.
There we go.
Dates from the 14th, 15th century.
Look at the top of it. Hey.
It's the good example of an L-shaped tower house.
Uh-huh.
Built for John Hamilton,
Mm-hmm.
who very much royalists back in the day.
Wow.
On several occasions. The main one was the Royal Ruin Robin. And now apparently I told you some of the story that Lord of the Three Kingdoms, Cromwell and his men come here.
Yeah.
John Hamilton refuses to give up his castle.
Uh-huh.
So what did the parliamentarians do? Burn it to the ground.
Oh.
Hence, your man's still inside.
So it looks a bit black in the inside, doesn't it? You know, a lot of these buildings that have had fires, that have lasted and survived, effectively they're just like ovens.
His ghost is still in the tower.
Oh. Now here we go, folks. Finally at a haunted location. And there's looks like maybe possibly an old folks home out the back. Why is there always old folks homes next to like haunted locations and graveyards, eh? They must see lots of stuff, eh? You know, do you think the ghosts of the tower come and visit the old folks? Ooh, look at this, look at this. This piece of land here with an orchard. Wow. Now, this would have been a beautiful place to stay. A tower and an orchard and a garden. Did we get a look at the time and when this might shut? Because I guarantee there's an old person that lives in the local area that shuts at a certain time. He'll come in and have a look before.
Reminds me of Peter, my mate from Campus Kenneth,
Uh-huh.
who's there with his little lock and key.
Yeah, I got speaking to him.
Did you?
He's the one that actually told me where the
William Wallace
is.
his body part is.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, does he tell everybody unless he likes you, you know? And I started running around the grounds telling everybody there, it's here.
Yeah. He's okay.
Yeah.
Just on the side.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, and I like that. You know, I think that's fab. Ah, shut up, seagulls! God's sake!
Should have an inscription with his name on it. Off the top.
It's not seagulls, it's bloody pigeons, eh?
See the ghost.
Is there anybody in the tower? Well, I did this at
Well, the top part is a 1560s, 1600s.
yes, it looks very
Edition.
different, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's edition, yeah.
I did this at Tantallon Castle, and a hawk flew out and flew over the top of us. And when we got back and asked the people, before we mentioned the hawk, or we could mention the hawk, they told me that the person that owned the ghost that was seen in the house was supposedly the sister of the woman, the lady of the house. And the lady of the house had hawks. And I went, funnily enough, when I asked for the ghosts of the castle to reveal themselves, the hawk flew out, checked us out and took off. I've got the pictures. But they did have hawks, or possibly a falcon, nesting in the castle. I'm not too up on the birds of prey, exactly what they were. Can't remember, but well, I'm looking over here. It's like you can see over there, right, in the background. There's an old house. That looks like something out of the Amityville Horror. So yeah. I wonder if there's any lights around here. I wonder if they light this up. I don't see any. It's either pitch black and, you know. This is the bit where you know, where we're wandering around, where we're on top fives and we go, did you see it? Let's play that again. Well, we've got enough time to sort of run up these stairs and see if we can we get into it. If it's open that way, then possibly, you know, okay, 1460, 1560s, 1650s. And that's the edition in 1650. Who's the master of the abode? Yes, it is locked, unfortunately, but you can see inside somewhat with the magic of technology. We're going in. See if we can get round the corner. Yeah. If you see anything I can't see, please let me know. Shadow beings, or, you know. Apologies for anybody that was watching this story wise and I start talking about ghosts. But we are ghost hunters. So it looks like this is open at certain points, and there are sort of like pedestals for maybe information. Right. What I'll do is I'll just pull back. I'll let my colleague have a wee look inside himself. Be like turning up to one of these, popular tourist sites where everybody's going, I need to get in there, Karl, I need to get in. I need to see. Budding historian just can't, needs to have a look. Yeah. I mean, even you look up here, I mean, it almost looks like wood, or is it just flaky?
It's just flaky, it's just stone.
You know what? You know what that looks like?
What?
That looks like that's come off the sea. Like shale.
Maybe.
Now,
you're on the beach, aren't you?
Yeah. Because certainly, when I was at school, some of the history that we looked at was about places like Skara, where these sort of ancient settlers lived by the sea and fished at the sea and left large piles of shells. Yeah. So
that looks the actual line.
If you look,
put the bricks there.
It almost looks like shell, and you can see fragments of shell.
To mix with the lime to make the brick stick.
Yeah, and I mean even the bricks themselves, they all have these kind of, by the sea kind of holes in them, being weathered.
So you're talking shells and stuff that have been. You're talking the 14th, 15th century shells.
Definitely, yeah. We passed it to find maybe what would you call it? Ancient fossils in some of these castles, depending on where the rocks come from.
Where they sourced them, yeah.
It seems quite crazy to say that you might crack open a giant stone in a castle and find an ancient sea creature's skull or bone.
Like my friend making his brick wall out of a Roman villa.
Right, we need to go there. That's the place that we need
to fix his stone wall.
Yeah.
He sourced his brickworks from an abandoned Roman villa that dates back from the 50 AD.
Yeah, that's the topic of another video where we're going to uncover Roman artifacts for where me and Karl are both in the agreement, like Indiana Jones, it belongs in the museum.
Yeah.
I mean, history's for all. It's not just for the few. I understand family houses, and I respect private property, but to not be able to get into some of these places, only get into them if you are having a wedding or an event, just seems wrong to me. So we can get in here as well. So come in there. I don't think you're gonna get much around the corner here, it's quite dark.
What can you see?
Just woodwork.
I think it's an ongoing project, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of renovation.
So I wonder where that goes. See the tunnel in the back with the grate on it? I'll bet you that goes somewhere under here.
Maybe the basement or something.
Yeah.
Storage room.
Have we had any more information on where we were just talking about the other tower, Cambith Kenny? Cambith Kenny. Whether we can get into the roof section.
I'd like to.
Because I believe that we forgot all about that. And that was going to be like an event, wasn't it?
I'll inquire about that.
So, yeah.
If it's good enough for my mate Murray Cook to get up there, it's good enough for me.
Well, you've got him on camera now. If all I was recording the other part, I could just cut it out later on, keep it for our own enjoyment.
It's not what you know, it's who you know, eh?
We're coming for you.
So even our new friend knows about it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Has he got the keys?
No. But that would be good.
If he opens that up, I'm up there.
Ah, he's going in. He's going in. But yeah, you can imagine this in the summer.
Yeah.
And if this is the original walls, do you think the original walls are here?
Yes.
They go around this because
Yes,
that building right up at the back.
Yeah. I think that's the original.
Yeah. Oh, it's in the grounds.
Yeah.
It's got some. Oh, good. Right. So we've got more to see.
Yeah. Just a shame that the council estate on it's not the.
It's not like too bad actually, and it's in keeping with the colours, don't you think? They're all cream and that kind of brown.
It's quite ornate garden, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just chilling out, relaxing. And it's said that this was a killing ground as well during the Battle of Prestonpans. This is where the Jacobites set about the redcoats. Unarmed redcoats were slaughtered. Trying to get over the walls to escape.
Beautiful little building there. I'm just going to have a quick look and see what this said. This is new, but what does it have on it? That's the tower.
That's the Prestonpans.
So there you go. Preston Tower Gardens 2022.
Edinburgh 9 miles.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise. I was just about to go and plan away there, but you can.
And the border of England is 41 miles.
Battle of Prestonpans to the east. Tranent to the south. England 41 miles, as Karl said. 9 miles to Edinburgh. So you think this is just an outhouse? Oh well, no, it's got holes for the birds there. Notice they're blocked up. No pigeons in there today. The Ducot.
It's a source of food back in the day and messages. Bannerburn House has one, didn't they?
Yeah.
Remember that one? What the gardens, isn't it?
Yeah. Okie dokie.
You know, you look at these dovecots or ducots as you call them here. You know, they're built to last, weren't they? Sometimes they're built a lot better than the actual castles.
That's a bit of a different one than the others that I've seen. They're all circular. This one's not.
But it's still got I'm presuming that's inside the ledge as well to stop the foxes from climbing up the walls to get to the doves.
Well, the video ended, folks, but we're now in mobile power with none of the technology But yeah, we were down there just having a laugh about today's adventures. It's quite a nice painting, that, isn't it?
Yeah. You can see where the that parapet thing was there. The front, you can still see the markers where it was put into the water. I should imagine that was wood.
Yeah.
It's quite ornate as well. He's got the initials on the top of the windows there. Hamilton's face, powerful family.
Hamilton's. What did I just say? What was it? A violent history. The rough wooing. Oh yeah.
That's where Henry VIII tried to get Mary Queen of Scots' child, like to Edward IV, son. And then after the Battle of Dunbar, Mr. Cromwell came.
It's just been one nutter after another, isn't it?
War of the Three Kingdoms, yeah. I wonder if because King Charles II was in Scotland after the Civil War. I wonder if he came here because he was actually proclaimed King of Scotland.
Yeah.
I wonder if he came here because I should imagine if you're a king of, or you're you go to all your royalist connections, don't you? All the people that supported you. I wonder if he ever came here. Like I always say, just because it's not written down doesn't mean to say it didn't happen.
Oh yeah. You know, you're constantly moving about.
Yeah.
Well, within reason.
Well,
you don't have a car, did you? So
you're a wanted man, aren't you? And you can't go in England because your father's just been executed. And it's a very much a military state. I mean, you've got the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell, protector of Great Britain, who hates royalists. Very turbulent life, it's not.
Well guys, I'm going to end that video here. I don't know, I might squeeze something else in. Who knows? But we needed an ending there at least on a camera. So we'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Well guys, we've come to Musselburgh to have a quick look at a bridge that I used to walk along every day when I first moved to Edinburgh, where, oh god, wind's fairly taking that down, but yeah, where when I first moved to Edinburgh I used to come along here to get to my work, and I believe it's someone said there's an old Roman bridge here, and apparently this is one of the largest battles in Scotland. It was the Battle of Pinkie Cleugh.
10,000 Scottish were killed.
10,000 Scottish were killed, yeah.
No.
So, yeah.
It's about the rough ruin, isn't it? Henry VIII and his son James, Edward VI.
You can pause that and have a look and see what's what and get an idea. of what we're talking about. But yeah, and I never had a clue. Like I said, that Tesco's was up there. You know, we went up that road and it was way up there. So now I think this is an old Roman bridge, or was an old Roman bridge.
I should imagine it as its origins, don't it?
Yeah, this is origins in our original Roman bridge. It's definitely an old ass bridge, that's for sure. There, I think there might be a sign somewhere. Give you an idea. Musselburgh's not such a bad place. It's quite a nice place.
What do you find with some of these bridges that there was a toll that you had to pay, especially the ones in Stirling Bridge, to get over it?
Yeah.
To pay for and maintain the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of light in there. I should imagine that would have had some sort of fire pit above it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some lights.
Yeah. Just light it up.
And no bodies hanging from it.
No. You never know.
You know?
You never know. Not so much bodies, but more heads.
Heads, right. But yeah, definitely. Back in the day, you know, Musselburgh's quite nice in the summer.
Yeah. You can see as you're coming into it, you know, the actual church cross where the Bonnie Prince stayed for a while.
Most of the stuff that I've read about this battle, or knew about it, and now that I know it's here, was, I think one day I'd come back here, not been here for ages, and I thought, oh, I'll check out the old bridge, and parked over there. It's changed again, but over here, you can see, or you might see, just behind these trees on another side of the road, there's an archer. There's a man shooting an arrow.
Well, our new friend said it was old school versus new school, muskets versus bow and arrows.
Yeah.
There you go, yeah.
There it is. We'll go down and have a look, because I think there might be a plaque. There's a wee description down there. A lot of these things, they
on your doorstep, you don't realise.
Yeah.
Or you've gone past them and not realised.
You walk past them all the time. I don't know when that statue was put up. Maybe it was before I stopped coming to Musselburgh. I don't know. Certainly, some of the surroundings have changed.
And I bet the people who actually live here don't know anything about it.
Yeah, well, there is that as well. But the other thing as well was the I'd never seen the archer before. Certainly, I'm pretty keen-eyed, you know what I mean? So I think I would have noticed it at the time.
Very Robbie Nuss-esque, isn't it?
Yeah. I would have noticed some nude man in a Musselburgh Conservation Design Awards Society, 2020. So I don't think.
Musselburgh Archer.
Yeah.
I think that's just making it worse.
We can pick up any of that. There is. Effectively tells you where the battle was, or some details on the artist. Highly unlikely that the actual people look like this. You know? And they're like, got you, you bastard! Someone broke my hand there. He's made of iron, these Scots. But yeah, so.
That's a lot of casualties on one side, and it's up to 10,000.
Well, imagine they're sitting firing arrows over this side.
Yeah.
You know, they're on the wrong side, are they not? Or are they? Well, actually, to be honest, no. That's more north, isn't it? That's more south.
I'm thinking of the digital energies that are here.
All along this sort of bridge, and you can imagine it would have looked very different.
Oh,
There
yeah.
probably would have been some sort of bridge here, but the other thing was there are sort of points at this river that look kind of shallow,
Yeah.
which I think
Scramble
you can
across.
probably scramble across.
Yeah. Obviously, probably wasn't as wide as it is today.
So I don't know, but
Saying that though, if that's an original Roman bridge or based on original Roman bridge, so it must have been pretty wide for it to have a bridge on both sides.
yeah. See the
Maybe with having the arches as well, maybe it's a lot wider.
uh-huh.
River. Maybe the pillars was central inside the river, and it wasn't. It was quite a wide river. Maybe not, like you say, not as big.
Mhm. I think what I imagine from this, it almost reminds me of something out of the. If you haven't watched that film yet, you should watch it.
What?
The Last Duel,
Right.
and it starts with a story. You see it from 3 points of view, but at the beginning, there's a battle, and they're standing on either side of a river, and the guy's like, "I'm gonna go. Let's go." And they all charge and they cross this river at the other side, and at the other side you see the enemies across there, and they've got some locals, or and they chop their heads off, and then they storm. The guy they're all on horses, some of them charge into the water, others fall, and I imagine that being kind of more of a, what period of time would you call it? I keep trying to call it medieval, but it's not really a medieval battle.
The 15th, 16th century.
Yeah.
When firearms just started to come into fruition.
Yeah.
When the bow and arrows and what have you were like a. But you still have some armies that still consist of archers.
Yeah. I think the Last Duel is probably before, the famous English-French battle.
That means that there could be some unseen archaeology underneath the water.
Quite, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly some arrowheads, I would say, being with them being archers. If there was sort of early, weapons or.
I mean, the archers, that was back in the day. That was the artillery of the day, wasn't it?
Yep.
Archers. But you don't stand a chance against archers, do you?
I'm more excited by swords and armour than I am musket balls, I've got to be honest, and buckles and buttons.
Armour wasn't impenetrable, was it?
No, it wasn't. No.
Even with archers.
Yeah.
Even with the actual arrowheads. Look at the Battle of Agincourt, where the English archers decimated the French cavalry.
I was looking at rundles, for puncturing through armour.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, different
pole axes I was talking about earlier.
Different arrowheads had different thicknesses.
Yes.
So obviously, the thicker the arrowhead, the more sharper the arrowhead, the more it could get into the armour.
I've got some funky arrowheads at home.
Medieval ones especially. I believe it got to a stage where once inside you, it's very hard to actually get them out. They cause more damage out than they do actually in.
Often they would want to pull them through, because.
And I think they developed in medieval age. I think they developed a little some sort of implement that goes in with the arrowhead. Yeah,
it's like a kind of forceps.
Yeah, and it
grabs,
opens the wound up, and you get the area. Yeah.
And it'd be very painful.
Oh, I should imagine so. Yeah.
You'd be drinking a lot of
but the
ale.
The end of the day is you can die just as well as loss of blood than you can actually having the arrowhead inside you. For some soldiers as well, actually put a poison on the end of it or some sort of a liquid to try and make death slower and more prolonged.
Yeah.
So even though the actual head's removed, you've still got that
poison
inside you.
Yeah. See, the bad thing about like arrows was back in the day. Obviously, we didn't have any way of getting rid of infections.
No,
so if you've got a piece of steel in you, and you're gonna get like some form of blood poisoning, to
that's it.
Bone damage.
It's not sort of place you can actually go to the nearest hospital because they're few and far between, if any.
You know what it's like been over the years for people that literally drank water that had contained certain chemicals.
Cortisone the wound with a hot iron. Even then, you still got the infection inside.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's amazing how things have changed over the course of hundreds of years. How
This is just one, roadway for people, I think, coming home from Edinburgh. Have been shopping today. They're just all leaving town. When I used to come to Musselburgh, everybody was leaving Musselburgh to go into. Excuse me, I just fell over there.
it goes
Everybody was leaving Musselburgh to go to work in Edinburgh, and I was coming to Musselburgh to come and work here. So it wasn't too bad getting here and leaving here. Although I have to admit that when the bus went through Portobello, I was like, oh fuck, I've got the wrong bus. I went to avoid the Portobello bus because the traffic there was always bad. And Portobello's a nice place. It's full of fucking tourists now.
Is that on the coast? Is that a coastal, a seaside type?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
pretty much, like when you get to the junction as you come into Musselburgh, you can either turn off or to get onto the bypass, as it were. I hate to give you sort of directions for that kind of way. For getting back on.
I believe that 10,000 men on one side lost their lives.
There's a lot of arrows being shot back and forth,
Yeah.
Loads of people just, dead on these shores, as it were.
And even to a certain extent, if you run out of arrows, reusing them off your dead comrades.
Yeah.
How peaceful and quiet is now. All to do with two royal families, royal infant children, trying to get them to force to marry.
I've got to say one thing. I always felt down here, when I walk down here, I don't feel so relaxed. I've come down here, I'd see people. I don't always see people just sitting down here in the summer when I work down here, even though it was nice. You'd imagine back in the day maybe somebody might have a wee dip in the water and that kind of thing. I don't think I've ever seen that in Musselburgh. Maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's definitely a sense of tension in this crossing here.
Well, it's not surprising, is it, all the pain and anguish that it actually still on the land. It doesn't go away. People lost their lives here. It's got to be still in the residual.
Musselburgh, you get a good chippy and some nice ice cream, Not a battle for life and death, eh?
Maybe on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
When you run out of fish. Yeah. So peaceful, isn't it? See, I'm not saying I'm psychic. I don't feel anything. I just feel, relaxed, and it's a nice place just to chill out and just take in the scenery.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever sort of like just come down here to be like chill, and even when I come down here, it's very much a case that we're down here, we're looking at it, and we're heading somewhere,
Obviously, because you know the history of the place, and you look at some things. I
never knew the history. I just never, when you work in an area, sometimes you come down to somewhere like that to have a walk around, and I'd always sort of come down here, and it didn't last very long. I wasn't down here for very long. Never thought too much about it, but now that you think that this is like a large battlefield, how much of Musselburgh actually existed at the time? I imagine it's just a bridge with a few buildings,
that's it.
Not here. There weren't no Tesco's on the other side, that's for sure.
Hang on a minute, lads. Let's just take a wee break, and we'll just get some sandwiches from Tesco.
Yeah. We'll run out of arrows. We need to get new ones from Tesco. No. They were defeated because they couldn't find the fucking arrows in Tesco because, Tesco's constantly changing everything in its store just to confuse its customers.
And they put the price up.
Yeah.
And they only had a certain amount of money. They had a budget.
Is this video sponsored by Tesco's? No, it's not. That's for sure. Ticking that box when it gets uploaded.
Yeah. It's just amazing that on your doorstep.
Is it lies? But yeah. So, another string to the bow, as it were, of places to sort of soak up and,
Just sorry, I didn't bring my spirit box.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideal place under the bridge.
You can get a toothbrush, because somebody's brushed their teeth down here. At least somebody's happy, you know.
Think of the carnage that's left. It's a battle that big, that multitude.
This place as well, one thing I've always thought, the grass on this place is just like non-existent really. I mean, okay, we've got a lot of dogs, we've got a lot of, you know, a lot of worms and the way the soil looks, but because it's the type of soil close to a river, I wonder how much, if there's any artifacts in here at all. Is that just a light? Yeah.
My Roman expert, Murray Cook, to come down and actually see if it's the actual, any remnants of the Roman, the base.
I had a really weird thought there, Karl.
What?
A really weird thought when I just came down here. It just came like a picture, just sort of came into my head. It's possibly because I've experienced something very similar, but I just saw a horse come down here, a horse and cross, and come up the other side of that bank. I just kind of felt as if this is a horse. This is a crossing point.
Yeah.
It is a crossing point, you can tell.
Yeah.
But I just instantly kind of felt like a horse coming out of there, coming over the other side.
On it, or just a horse?
Yeah, just, well, there could be people on it, but I see that like, I'm more sort of picturing the horse. But I'm also sort of like thinking, you know, I'm also seeing an abandoned horse. A horse that's kind of like been abandoned and it's just running and got stuck and then got to the other side and then run up the bank.
It's not that deep, is it, really?
No.
It looks very Romanesque, but I'm not
I think the only reason I think I've said it's a Roman bridge is probably I've looked at it online and it's probably told me and I went, oh, I didn't know.
It looks Romanesque.
A remnant of a Roman bridge.
But maybe
It's these kind of bits, you know, I don't...
Maybe built on the foundations of the...
Yeah, I think more likely. It's original foundations.
Yeah.
I mean...
Probably the original place where the actual bridge was as well. With it being an island in the middle there.
Uh-huh.
It looks a man-made structure, the island in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I'm just getting peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hear the river.
Oh yeah, I don't feel... there's no like... I don't... You know, I don't... There's nothing leaping out at me, but I don't feel...
It was strange seeing the horse or visualising the horse.
Just what you got to do is you've got to think about where you are, what the possibilities of where it is. You know, I could be sitting talking a load of nonsense right now, and you know, I don't claim to be talking the truth, but I just can tell you what suddenly comes to mind.
The thing being, with you going to a church, if you're more in tune to things like this.
You say that, but
it's like me and you go to a football school of excellence. You're being to be more in tune, you're more practiced. It's the same sort of scenario.
Yeah.
And maybe a different example.
I wouldn't fully agree with that, but
so therefore
I know what
you're
you're
more
saying.
in tune than I am. You know, to see things.
What I've learned is to trust sometimes what comes into your head, because it's not always, you know, your brain sucks up loads of different things. You know, I could be, you know, thinking about something I've seen in a movie or a TV, or you know, it's firing off those signals that causes me to think I've seen a horse, or imagining a horse going across there. But what I have been taught to do was, if you see it or you think about it, you know, say it, because you know, you never know, you might be right. It might be you might be seeing exactly what happened.
Yeah. Well, under the circumstances, it's not surprising, you know. A riderless horse, yeah. So imagine there was, if it's a major battle. Because horses, I'd say 100% the horses were involved. whether they're pulling some sort of implement or carrying a soldier as such, even to escape the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said that water is a good, what it contains, seems to hold energy.
Uh-huh.
A bit like we were talking a couple of days ago about the stone tape theory.
Mm-hmm.
I believe water holds memories.
Also, I don't know, I mean, I know we've got the sign there saying that this is a site, but I'm kind of wondering how far it goes down, and whether it goes a lot further down the battle.
We said this before about battles, you cannot, if there's no written records, it's just hearsay.
Yeah.
Over the course of years and years and years, the actual location of the battle is lost, and then it's just surmised around a certain area. And a prime example is Bannockburn, Battle of Bannockburn.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they'll be able to, not unless you research it and you know, open it up to archaeology, then you can actually zoom in of where the actual battle took place. I mean, our new friend Andrew was saying this. He cannot determine where the actual impact was, where the actual two sides met. What? Under the bridge could tell a story.
It was like crossing the bridge to get to the bookies.
Yeah.
And then straight right next to the pub at the Old Brig Tavern. Wouldn't it be quite nice to have a pint right now? I can't have a pint because I'm driving.
I don't want to sound stereotypical Scotsman, but walking over a bridge, the bookies, the pub, and another pub. And it's everything the Scotsman wants.
Yeah. What else do you need? It must be a chippies. There's definitely got to be a chippy.
Yeah. Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's
for
probably
the way home.
That's the next step.
Yeah. But, wow, it's a lovely bridge.
Yeah, you never think about these places until later on. You're like, I used to walk across this every day.
Yeah, I'm not realising.
I used to do a lot more walking every day.
Me too, mate. Me too. When you're younger, you walk forever. It's only when you get older and you get more lazy and you buy a car.
Aye.
That you can't even walk down the road to the corner shop without jumping in your car.
Yep.
So much the economic footprint.
So do you think you walk around these places and you have a look? Do you ever you got this desire to suddenly go, oh, what's that in the ground?
Yeah. Oh. Many a time. Many a time.
Look, it's a medieval sword.
Yeah. I mean, what I try to do, I when I'm looking at a place, especially like this now, I try to visualise what it was like. Try to losing the houses, losing to a certain extent, losing the bridges, losing everything around you, trying to suss out the layout of the buildings. Obviously, if the building's a lot bigger than, let's say, at the back than the front, obviously there's a little bit of an incline at the back, so therefore you visualise that.
You know, I look at this and, you know, what is a battlefield? It's a field, you know.
It's a field where people lost their lives.
And that film that I was talking to you earlier on about with the music, the Black Sabbath music, Orchid, listen to it, folks, good track, instrumental, is Field in England, and it is after a battle, and it is it's about some English soldiers. I think they're trying to find some treasure that's hidden. Someone's buried some treasure. Did it exist? Did they trust each other? You know, the intrigue.
Do you think if we went into Tesco and got two spades and started digging about, do you think people would get upset?
Oh yeah, we'd have probably sitting like going, "Who's the guy with the phone?" And like, you know, they're walking about and with the filming.
This is the time when you could discreetly have a metal detector, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I actually need to borrow my dad's because I bought him one. He had one he gave me like 8 years ago, and then I bought him a really nice one, but he's just not able to use it. I should sort of borrow it back and lend it to you for, you know. It's like, I'm always saying I'm going to lend you stuff and you need this. And it's like, you fucking buy it yourself, eh?
No, but we're friends.
It's like, you know, go in there. I've got I still have that microphone so you can have your things, but it turns out you've got a different phone. You've got an iPhone, haven't you? Yeah, here's me going like, I have to give you a mount so you can use your sat nav in the car. I just said to Karl earlier on, I said, man's a bus driver.
He regularly gets lost.
You guys get lost. Well, I don't blame you here, but yeah.
It's nice.
Right, well, there's not much more you can say about this
I
place.
think it's a lovely place. But obviously you get different vibes to what I do.
Well, you know, spend a bit more time, I guess. Yeah, you kind of relax. It's just, I don't know. It's just never really given me a kind of. It feels a little cold. You know, it's cold now, and whenever it's been the summer, I've never felt any particularly warm here either. Not like that guy, and his fucking.
Yeah.
You know.
String vest on his skirt. I mean, the situation like this is that I bet the river actually run red with blood.
It would have, yeah.
There was that many casualties, that many people killed. I mean, and the stones moved that river. You might even get the stones in that river to date back to that actual period.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there might be somebody's artefacts or personal possessions still in there. Because back in the day, there's a lot of people who were religious, weren't they? Wore crosses, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Personal belongings, personal possessions, rings.
There's probably a lot of rings in rivers, you know? A lot of jewellery.
Yeah.
A lot of people kind of like, you know, throw a ring into a river for commemorating somebody or ending a relationship or, you know, some sort of thing, or just they've dropped it, you know?
The old pagan religion.
Lots of things, different things like that, so.
To pay homage to the,
we're definitely getting a metal detector. We're going magnet fishing next, Karl. That's what we're doing.
That'd be a good idea.
I want to get a big fucking magnet. Sorry, excuse the French, you know, but big magnet with like a big rope and try a bit of magnet fishing
see if we can try and get something.
in the Glaswegian River.
What you could do is like they do in France, where they actually cordon a bit of river off with big barriers and actually do archaeology in the river bed.
Yeah.
You know, like a dam on each side.
Oh yeah.
And actually dig into the river, see if you can find anything.
Well, I have always. Wouldn't it be fantastic if you could just turn off the sea?
Yeah.
Just for a good few hours and check it out. What you'd find.
Reminds me of that program. Is it Drain the Oceans?
Drain the Oceans, yeah.
Where they can actually they come across the wreckages.
Well, what did they find? They found there was a river that had dried up. It was one a European country, but it was where battles had been fought in World War II, and they found German soldiers still that had drowned in the. Found their helmets and their bodies, and obviously they were repatriated back. So yeah, I fully guarantee there's probably a few skeletons in here too. We're talking about lovely things, but you know, where there's a battle, there's some bones.
Yeah, well, our friend said that, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's just finding.
You know, he said, what did he say? The thorn tree, something like that. And I was like, oh, where's that? Oh, so he's going to check that place out.
Yeah.
If that's somewhere, because if people locally sort of buried, but nobody's going to sit and dig that up and see if they can find some, you know, soldiers that were buried. You could scan it and find that that's the site and then put it on a map. That's good enough. Just later on, Karl will be down there with his, trying to get the rings and everything off him.
But you know, that was talking about this. Some of the things I never realised. I mean, I thought that all the families, the Redcoats, all when they dispatched from Aberdeen to Dunbar to go to Prestonpans, I didn't realise that the families were with them. I thought they stayed at home. But he actually said that there's contemporary reports of the actual women, the British, associated with the Redcoats, actually going around the bodies.
You can almost imagine, so when you were saying that and they were talking about that, you know, I hate to kind of like sort of say it that way, but there's probably a little bit of gossip going on You know, the women do keep together, and they would say, "Our men are away." Oh, they're back.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard somebody mentioned they're back. Oh, is the battle over? Oh, then, ladies, we need to get together and go up to the battlefield and see if we can help them, you know? And a load of ladies would have went up there and
Help themselves.
pillaged the gold, you know? Well, no, they would have went up there to help. That's, you know.
I mean, it happened with most battle sites, didn't it? Especially if it's located near a main town. I mean, Bannockburn was a prime example of the wee folk who helped out, ended up helping themselves as well.
Not everybody's bad, and
No.
fairer sex, you know, certainly,
But
you know.
the thing is, if you've got a battle site full of quite decent armour
Yeah,
and horses
you want that back.
abandoned,
You know, that's more like a command or someone sending to say, you need, you know, after the battle, the following day or at certain time of the day, you need to go back out there and you need to retrieve, you know.
but 9 times out of 10, Simon, they weren't retrieving the armour, they just received in next to nothing to wear, because the armour is considered war damage.
They didn't really have armour back then, in that period or in that battle. I think they just wore sort of like jackets. It's all buttons and buckles and metal objects.
Yeah.
If you're talking, you're going to find more armour, obviously, in a medieval battle, you know, if you're lucky. If it hasn't rotted over the years. And that's the things that people...
It's just the personal objects.
Well, large, you know, when there was a battle, there would be lots of birds floating around pecking at the corpses and loads of people, you know, like ghouls going about taking the armour off the bodies and putting them on the backs of sort of, you know,
Themselves to the horse, 'cause horses
yeah.
were
travelling merchants would follow battles, maybe, you know, like you say, local people not very much, possibly, you know, they go to their local tavern, they know there's a battle happening somewhere, you know.
Let's wait for it to finish and then let's help ourselves.
You guys heading up there later on, sort of thing. Oh yeah, we're going there.
It's a shame,
See what we can get, you know.
I mean, it happened all over the world, didn't it, when it came to battles? I mean, Gettysburg also, all over the world.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at the Battle of Waterloo, they was helping themselves to... I mean, the thing at the time was teeth.
Yeah.
Pulling the teeth out of the dead soldiers.
So, you know, if you watch Sharp, you've got the chap called Sweet William. That's his nickname. So what do they call? They call me Sweet William, and they have a wee laugh. And he's got a set of teeth that's basically taken off of dead soldiers. You know, he was collecting them.
That's it. That was where the money was. Sell them. Amazing that money from dead.
But right, we're going to call it. I think we'll end on this
Lovely, peaceful, isn't it?
this lovely peaceful massacre site.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
We'll see you at the next, you know, interesting place. See ya.